how we do things, but we're learning.
Okay. Yeah. So like my main site's on Cloudflare. I can show you if you want actually.
Very pretty font. Is that a font or a picture?
It is a font. I can tell you what font it is. Is this Typekit? No, that's not on Typekit. That is on Google Fonts. It is Koshan Script. Anyway, two-factor authentication.
Show us all the secrets.
Show you all the secrets.
We'll all try to let you know if you accidentally do something. We'll side channel to get you to scrub it.
Yeah. Where is Cloudflare and Authy? Okay, 42. Oh, I've got. You got 6. You got
6 seconds to get in. Quick. What do you use Cloudflare for? Like, assume I don't know anything because I think that was a good assumption.
Okay, so Cloudflare is essentially a content delivery network, which is free to use for most people unless you want a ridiculous amount of bandwidth and visitors, like ridiculous. Yeah, so it actually proxies all your internet traffic through to Cloudflare servers first. So let's say you're visiting my website from San Francisco. You will go through to the San Francisco Cloudflare server first, and it will go, hey, is there any content cached for knowable.com? And if it is, it will just spit it out straight from that San Francisco server without talking to it. So especially if it's a static page, like this page here, this is most likely being served from a Cloudflare server in Auckland and not talking to my actual server because this is a static website. There's no need to grab it from my server every single time. Yeah, as well as it protects your IP address, but not necessarily in my case, since I have all of my server URLs publicly visible in this. Yeah, so it just speeds up everything. I know Discord uses Cloudflare and a few other companies do. It's a bit like what's called Akamai and Fastly, in a sense, just a more consumer-oriented source for it. Yeah, so that's Cloudflare. And this is Proxmox, which is simply hosted on my own server at home. You could actually DDoS me. If you ping this address, you would get my actual IP address since it's being hosted at home. But just call up Trustpower, say, hey, get a new IP and I'll be fine. Yeah. So
do you have a static IP with Trustpower? No.
Yeah, we do have a static IP, but it was kind of static before we were paying to have a static IP address every month. But Trustpower's like, no, if you want to change your dynamic IP, you will need to pay for a static IP because our dynamic IP was essentially static, which is weird.
It is weird.
No matter how many times we reboot our router, our whole network system, our ONT.
Swapped out the router.
Yeah, all sorts. Yeah, it was still had the same IP address, and you are kind of only supposed to be able to port forward with a static IP address because else you're put behind the cellular grade network thingy-majiggy, which makes several customers share one IP address, so you can't actually port forward. But in this case, no, somehow we were off it without paying the $4.99 or whatever it is a month to have a static IP. Anyway, this is my Proxmox rig, uptime 17 days. I reached about 200 days a while ago until I had to reboot to update Proxmox because I realized I haven't actually updated this rig since the beginning of last year. So anyway, updated it. I'm kind of using the default configuration I got off the server from school. So 16 gigs of RAM, 100 gig. Well, actually, no, sorry, 600 gigs of storage. But this is being a, if you can see it here, actually maybe here. It's like I have a 100 gig LVM local drive and then LVM, which is another 460 gigs. So it's weird. I just store my VMs on this. Yeah, so in terms of containerization, I have separate servers for different things. So I have this one, which is my file server, this one, which is my web server. I maybe actually delete it. Yeah, I have a mail server, which I used to use until Outlook blocked my mail coming from my IP address. My old web server, a Pi-hole server for DNS, which I used to use until I just switched to Cloudflare Gateway. And then I have this other server which I just spin up and change my port forwarding options in here whenever I want to do maintenance on my main web server, and which is cool. So everyone who visits my site just gets a sorry, this server is under maintenance sort of thing. So I can just change it up here and say, hey, point to this other server, and it'll point to a different server, which is pretty cool. What's this one? Oh, this one was for Caddy when I was trying a different web server.
Caddy's fun.
Yeah, I kind of tried Caddy, didn't like it. I prefer having, oh yeah, that's another thing about Cloudflare. This Cloudflare automates all of your SSL certificates. So you can have it, so you have, in my case, which I'm doing from my main site, your connection's only encrypted between your browser and Cloudflare. So you have a certificate going to Cloudflare server. You can have it, so you have a self-signed certificate on your own server, which encrypts it more, but from what I read, it doesn't actually make too much of a difference. Or you can have a fully signed, let's say a Let's Encrypt certificate on your origin server as well. How did I get there? Oh yeah, I went from here. Yeah, that's about it. I used to have a lot more VMs in here, but I deleted them because I was getting low on space. Yeah, that's all my cloud really. I do have an AWS server, which I use as a backup server, which I think this site is actually hosted off anyway. Oh no, I can't be bothered now. There's a capture. Yeah, so that's my Proxmox setup. All my machines can be accessed externally through SSH if you really want to. I should be using SSH keys, but I'm just using passwords because I'm lazy.
No stress.
Yeah, that's about it.
No judgment.
Hey, we've got some new visitors.
We do.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
What up? How are you all?
Beautiful.
Good.
We'll take a moment to pause when we have new people that show up and go back over to our Attack MD somewhere. Then we know where I put it somewhere. Is it in this? Probably in the browser bits. Back a tab or two. Close it. Hey, here we go. So we'll share this again to everyone in chat. And we have the who, you, how, feel, why here. And I'll fill in a new section down here. Why have I got a slash? New one for Jay. Tehima. Am I spelling it wrong because I can't see his name as I'm typing? Yeah, a lot of people fix that for me. Feeling and why are you here? So where did everybody's face go? I can't do this without seeing everybody's faces. Give me a second to figure out what I've done wrong. Bring everybody's faces down here. And it's Joe. Kia ora, Joe. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. How are you guys?
Absolutely fabulous.
Cool. Good.
Intro.
Hey,
Oh,
how you doing?
good, thank you.
And feeling. We were just going through our protocol of who are you, how are you feeling, and why are you here? I feel fantastic, and I'm always here. Noah and Stephen and Caleb added their things, and Jay just joined before you, so I was going to give Jay a chance to correct the spelling of his name and let us know how he's feeling and why he's here.
Cool. So T-I-H-E-M-A, so not too far off. I'm feeling really good. Been a productive day. Keen to catch up with everyone and just to obviously keep learning more and developing my understanding about the space. So yeah, thank you very much for the invitation.
Joe, who, how, why?
Feeling good. Pleased to see all your faces. Stephen, nice to see you again. Just saw Stephen the other day. It's been a while. Hi. Yeah, I am here because I tried to get here last Thursday and I was down in Cooney and my Wi-Fi was shit. So I wasn't able to log in last week. And this week I was determined to make it. Plus, I just got off the monthly committee call for the New Zealand Open Source Society, of which I'm on the council. And we were talking about meetups and cool open source things happening in our area. And I went, well, there's the very cool Hippie Hacker and ii and the team. And in fact, I'm seeing them later. So I'll talk to them about New Zealand Open Source Society as well, and the plans there if you're interested at all. So I have two reasons for being here, one to catch up with all you beautiful people, and one to pass on some love from the New Zealand Open Source Society for doing what you do.
So glad to see you, Joe. So glad you're here. And I look forward to hearing more about this. I figured since it's kind of a meeting that we flow to, and by the way, just wanted to let you know, and I should say when you join, but we're streaming to YouTube and we're also recording for later. And we heard from Noah earlier, and he told us all about his journey from Code Club through school, fixing things, bringing a computer home, running Club Penguin that helped him get into computing. And then he gave us a tiki tour of his home cloud and how he uses Cloudflare to connect those things in a way so his boxes don't tip over at the house. Does that about sum it up, Noah?
Yeah.
So you're happy about lockdown then, Noah?
Yeah, I kind of did enjoy lockdown last year. Peace and quiet, more time to tinker once you finish schoolwork. Yeah.
Nice.
Joe, since you offered, I went ahead and added you to the agenda.
Oh, right.
You can be you, and I'll just type a bunch and make sure. It may sound that we may hear me typing a lot on the Zoom call. Let me know if that's bugging you. It will not be on the YouTube or this stream.
Yeah, cool. No worries. So you're adding me to the agenda. Does that mean now?
Well, it's a free-flowing agenda, and nobody really planned to.
Oh, I see.
It's
right.
usually in person. Put you on the spot. You did offer. So.
Nice one, Chris. I love how you roll. So yeah, New Zealand Open Source Society. I don't know whether you know of. Chris, you'll know.
Absolutely.
I do.
Yeah.
Does anyone not know what the New Zealand Open Source Society is?
Hey, Jay.
Lovely. Can you please explain for everyone on the call what the Open Source Society is and how it benefits New Zealand?
Okay, cool. So the New Zealand Open Source Society is a champion for open source software and open source development. It's a open source organization. Obviously, there is a membership. We'd love for people to join and contribute. We are about supporting open source projects with love, but also there are some services that the New Zealand Open Source Society currently runs as well, which are open source products. For instance, and very topical right now, seeing as we're in lockdown, last year, New Zealand Open Source Society community spun up a instance of Big Blue Button, which is an open source platform for similar to Zoom, similar to this, you know, what we're using at the moment, but it's free to use. And we had, I have to go and check the numbers actually, because it's been for a while since I've had an update, but I think it was about 250 organizations, including some Māori incorporations and groups, jump on board so that they could use that and not get cut off, as was the case last time I went to lockdown after 40 minutes in Zoom. And also it has all of the beautiful benefits of an open source project in that it's private, it's secure, it's not recorded unless you want to record it, and choose who it's distributed to, you know, all of the good things about open source software, you know. So data sovereignty being an issue for some people, Big Blue Button is a good solution. That's something that we hosted and still host, actually. So we actually—
Where is that, Joe? I didn't recognize that.
Big Blue Button.
Store host? It says hosted with who?
So with its Catalyst IT is a big supporter of the New Zealand Open Source Society, and they provide us with some space to host services, including Big Blue Button. And so it's the other good thing about it is that it is truly a data sovereignty project in that nothing goes overseas. It's hosted here in New Zealand and on Catalyst services, which are onshore, which actually is something that, you know, is worth talking about again, but not in this little update.
Fair.
So yeah, that's what the New Zealand Open Source Society is. Do you have any questions before I kind of move on to what we were talking about today? Anybody? No? Cool.
Who are the humans? Because
who are the humans?
I think the currency of our community is relationships, and relationships are not with organizations, but with individual humans. Can you tell us about the humans of the Open Source Society of New Zealand?
Sure, absolutely. In fact, there's a that was part of our discussion today. There's been a bit of a changing the guard to a degree. So there is actually a post coming out with a little bit more information about who's on the committee. But there's basically there's Danny, who works for Catalyst, Elliot, not quite sure where Elliot works. They're all very, very techie. I'm the only
Danny and who?
Non-techie. Danny Adair.
Yeah, I spelled that wrong. Who's the second person that's not a Catalyst?
A-D-A-I-R.
Yeah.
A-I-R. Elliot, and I can never pronounce his surname, so I won't even try. Carl Kitchener.
Kitchener, if I were to hear your words well enough, yeah.
Yep. And Tim, whose surname I have completely forgotten. I saw him earlier today and I completely forgotten. So I'll fill in those details for you.
This document is for all of us to edit. So I type fast, but I don't get it all right. And so if anyone wants to, I'll send that to everyone in the Zoom chat again. Feel free to make it better. I just
so that's I'm sure I've forgotten somebody, but anyway, Danny.
What about our friend from Red Hat used to be on there, right? He did some stuff in Auckland.
Steve.
Steve. Him and his wife host a couple of open source events at one point, and I went and volunteered. Well, I don't know, this would have been 9 years ago, maybe. What is he's on Twitter? Let me go look.
These guys have been in this and doing this for 4 decades, literally.
Yes. These are this is the old guard.
It is the old guard. It is the old guard, and I'm the new kid on the block. And
Stephen Ellis is his name.
Thank you.
Ellis
and
works
Gurley.
for Red Hat. What was the other one?
And me.
Yeah, of course. And then Joe.
So they're the old guard, and I'm the kind of newish. I've been kind of part of the committee for about a year now, but I'm still kind of learning the ropes, and I am not technical like you guys or like them. So we've just had a conversation about the committee meetings maybe not being quite so technical.
Yes, it is.
And thinking about some of the other things, which brings me to the point, right? So one of the big things that we're looking at moving forward is our comms, and that's probably one of the reasons that I was invited into the committee. How do we make good connections and build good relationships with the people working on the open source projects that we're not connected to? And at this point in time in history and in our politics in New Zealand, open source software, data sovereignty, licensing, like we were looking at the Kaitiaki license today, and talking about how the Open Source Society could or should support that, because it's not true open source in the kind of global and long-term view of open source. There's copyright, copyleft, but it does have very important attributes for New Zealand and for tangata whenua in particular. And so, yeah, our conversation was about reaching out to the other meetups that are going on, and starting to talk a little bit more about New Zealand Open Source Society and what we can do, and finding out how we can help, right? One of those ways that we can help is with some of the software that is free and open source and hosted by Catalyst. So there are instances of BBB and Rocket Chat and OpenOffice and various different things that people can use. And I'll post a link in the notes after I've stopped talking, where you can find all of those open source software available for organizations. But another thing that we can do is start to amplify the work being done by some of the other groups. Talk about the New Zealand Open Source Awards, which are about to be announced, the winners from this year, and it's a very cool process that has been gone through to pick those open source winners this year. And yeah, as I say, how can we be an ally and a supporter and use the resources of the kind of 1,000-odd people that we're connected to do the really important work in terms of our open source software, public digital infrastructure, data sovereignty, etc. here in New Zealand. And I know all of those things is very close to your heart, Chris and Stephen.
Absolutely.
And Jay, and probably you, Noah, and Caleb too.
There's some new things I have heard nothing about before, and I'd love to hear more about the Katiaki license.
Oh, really?
Because,
Okay.
yeah, I know nothing about this. First time I've heard it. I'm actually have a whole new section just for this. Can I grab this? And then before you start typing, because give me a second. Make a new heading. I'm gonna take it out and bring it down.
Can I type into the?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's meant for all of us to type together. It's like I can't keep up. Somebody else type too.
Okay, cool. So let me post the link in. Where should I post it?
At the bottom there, I just made a new heading for Katiaki license.
Okay, it's Kaitiaki Tanga.
What is a tanga like that?
Yeah, all one word.
All the word to Katiaki Tanga. Okay.
Kaitiaki Tanga. Here you go. Can I just?
Actually, we can. You don't have to wait for me to start typing. You just go.
Oh, okay.
At the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Where? Okay. Can I start typing? Excuse me, people. Do I need to sign in to be able to?
You shouldn't have to. We've tried to make it where you just click and keyboard moves and words come out. If not, we'll try harder.
I have to have an account. Let me put
it.
it.
No, let's.
It says sign in to edit or delete your comments.
Everyone, right? Everyone. Is there not a way to? It's view mode. Can we just turn it to more comment, invite, permission? Everyone, comment, enable. I don't know if anyone knows how to use this better than me. This is the time to speak up and say click here.
You're driving the bus, Chris.
I'm only holding.
I think you can. Could just be a thing with HackMD. You have to sign in anyway.
If you click on the share button once more.
Okay, I'm clicking on share once more.
And then that link where you copy right there.
Yes, copy.
I think that link is different from the one that
okay, then I'm going to go back into
and can you change it from view mode in that?
Sure, I'll change from view mode to
edit mode.
Edit mode, cool. And then I'll
then the same.
I hit preview. That's not what I wanted.
Copy. The same links, but slash preview. Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna drop this into our shared chat. There is an edit link for those that want to edit, and then there's a view mode.
You don't need to be signed in to use it.
And you don't need to be signed in to use it if you use these things.
Okay, scrolling to the bottom, trying again. No, it's still asking me to sign in.
I will drop it in the chat and I'll type, or you can GitHub in. Okay. There's 2 links there. I will grab them
There's
both.
2. One is the website and one is the GitHub repository for the license.
This one.
You got both of those?
I'm trying to. My copy pasty abilities are not as talented as other skills. Okay, so we got this one.
So
We got this one.
Containerization.nz is the
All right. It may be that
website?
it's written in some special words. So this is your paste into raw text. So I'll go and write this here. And then in
okay.
the URL bar, it might look differently because Unicode. So
Yeah.
that's the underlying implementation of Unicode. The URL looks the other way.
Yeah.
So if I copy this and paste it over here, it looks like that.
Right, got ya. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's the yeah, that's where it is. And you can read up all about it, really, in there. So I'll let you do that.
Yeah.
Probably not now.
Well, I mean, this is why we're here. I mean, this is the
Yeah.
place to discuss, and like if I leave it open and we talk about it, that is all good.
So I mean, it has a you know, it's a tangata whenua initiative, and Te Hiku Media are kind of the well, the kaitiaki of the kaitiaki-tanga license. It's an evolving license, which I love, you know, that has a, you know, it has a purpose around it in terms of the data sovereignty of everything that goes under the license, and obviously specifically from Māori creators and developers. And it's a useful thing that needs amplification, which was part of our conversation, right? Particularly right now with stuff that's kind of going on and been going on recently. It kind of doesn't come into the public view very much because, you know, other organizations that are kind of more commercial don't take this on 2 counts. One, Māori sovereignty, 2, open source, you know. So yeah. It's kind of, yeah, that's why it kind of doesn't make it into the zeitgeist. But yeah, it's a useful tool, and certainly deserves amplification. So yeah, if there's an opportunity to talk about it internationally as well, Chris, that would be greatly appreciated, right?
Yeah. I think talking to people who are using it and wielding it and hearing their stories and the impact and relations, like the connections, right?
Yeah. So hanging fire for just a little while longer and waiting for the open source awards, there'll be some opportunity for that coming up, with a good story attached to it.
Good. That's exciting.
Yeah.
This is part of the things that I think Jay and I were also speaking about with regards to some fun initiatives that we've got going on. I'll swing back around to that within the Cloud Native Compute Foundation. And you remember she was going to come tonight. I just spoke with her, Indigo Phillips.
Yeah, Indy.
Yeah, she's working with us a bit to translate how to contribute to the cloud, Kubernetes specifically, so that the guide is in Terrail, and there's specific that overlaps with what we did previously. I don't know how it was some odd years ago. I can actually go pick that up real quick. ii.nz.
Yeah.
If you go to ii.nz, go to stories, and you scroll way back 2019. So discovering the untold stories of Kubernetes applied anthropology, and Indy shared her Mihi and Pepiha, and also talked about the concept of Whakapapa and said it's okay for Hippie to try to explain that as a concept to be talked about by the cloud people, and then they still didn't understand, and I don't think it didn't.
It didn't land yet.
It didn't land because again, there's a cultural divide there that is I think we need to have more examples to point to, and there was a bridge too far for most of even those people, but times have changed.
Yeah.
And now we're this many years later, and I want to bring up Slack because this is the bomb here today. Inside of Slack, inside the Kubernetes Slack, inside of a new area. Oh, there's threads. Hopefully this is the thread I'm thinking that it is. How lovely is that? So I'm going to bring this into view over here in new window. This is Indigo inside of SIG docs localizations inside of the Kubernetes Slack.
Awesome.
And she says, Kia ora from Aotearoa. I'm here to introduce myself and the KB community that I am embarking on, the knowledge-based community I'm embarking on a mission to translate the Kubernetes docs into my native indigenous language of Maori. Awesome. My goal, like others before me, is to meet the minimum required content for localization, which is the link down there that kind of renders there, to go live as a recent member. This will be my first step to contributing, and I won't lie, there's a lot of excitement, learning, and confusion, and trying to figure out what one should focus on first. With the totality of the task before me, I have already many overlapping questions in which there will be opportunities that arise. I pair it with my friend Hippie. Any pointers, suggestions, and advice moving forward from those who've translated this, I'm going to be welcome. Namihi Indigo.
Awesome. I have something to contribute, possibly.
Ooh, yes.
And an ask attached to it, because it's open source world. I'm working on a project with Rob.
Yes.
To create the Eastern Hemisphere town hall for the Cardano project. And in particular, do you know Cardano?
No, I'm trying to get back. If I don't type fast enough, can I have a second on the old note taking thing? I think it takes a bit. So give me that word again. The what project?
Cardano. It's C-A-R.
Is that
Cardano?
Is that contracts one?
Pardon?
Oh,
is that the contracts stuff?
Yeah. That's the smart contracts, DAO. Alternative currency, open source innovation. I mean, it's right up II's alley in the nicest possible way. And Rob and I have been doing some work on contributing to the Cardano community. Rob very technically, obviously, and me kind of floating around the sides and talking about the community that we've grown here in Tauranga. And part of the Cardano ecosystem, or DAO if you like, is a project called Catalyst, where the biggest global innovation fund is hosted. So just to give you an idea, we're at the moment working on proposals for Fund 6, which is something like $3 million, I think. And there are like 7 categories of proposals. Anyway, one of the proposals that's going up there is a proposal to translate the onboarding documents into the Cardano network and the Catalyst project, and to be able to apply and put up proposals to this fund into other languages. So we have connections now in Korea, Japan, Vietnam, can't remember, a whole bunch of places. And Rob and I were talking, wouldn't it be amazing if there was also Te Reo on there as well? because it is an open source innovation fund that is all about creating, you know, economic well-being for people, localized and distributed control and governance to the people on the ground running the projects. And there's, you know, there is a massive opportunity here, which doesn't come with the string attached of working with anybody with the New Zealand government. At any level, whether it be national, regional, local, economic development, or, you know, anywhere, you know, it's completely separate system. So yeah, there is a piece of work that Rob's done to create something I think that is a bit similar to what you're doing now. You know, there's a markdown piece in English, and then there's an opportunity to translate it, and he's made it as simple as possible for people to do that interpretation, you know. So there might be some sharing that might be useful on actually what he's got set up in terms of Indigo's project, but there's also an opportunity there for somebody to jump in where, you know, who is interested in the techie stuff and innovation and design and community and open source to interpret what is there in English for the Cardano project and Catalyst into Te Reo as well, so that we can bring more whānau into the world of DeFi, blockchain, smart contracts, open innovation, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, I'll connect you with Rob on the translation piece, or maybe actually get you to come along to the Eastern Hemisphere Town Hall. If anybody would like to come to that, you're more than welcome. And again, I will find the link and post it. It's like midnight or something tonight, I think. Thursday. Is
Oh,
it
it's
Thursday?
tonight.
Is it
Oh
Thursday?
no, I'm asleep.
Okay, all right, but I think it's every Thursday. I'm not quite sure. I will
Yes.
find the link. I haven't obviously been to all of them, you know.
No,
So,
no, I would have expected not.
but that works for the Eastern Hemisphere and for, you know, the
Yeah.
people from the
It's at
country.
midnight NZ time every Thursday.
Yeah.
I'll have. Yeah. I get up at 4 a.m. so if the overlaps, it'd be more easier for me to wake up early than to stay up late.
Yeah.
That is at my absolute middle of the night for me. Middle of my sleep cycle, rather.
Yeah. So yeah, two opportunities. One, the software might be useful that Rob knitted together for Indigo's project, and yeah, the Cardano project would be interesting for.
It'd be interesting, I think, to look not Indigo's picking up within an existing framework of things that are there, and it would be I would what do you call? I would encourage Rob and the team from Cardano to look at the infrastructure and translation processes in place, because like she said about the minimum content requirement, this URL over here is some good. I don't want to put this translation requirements, right? What does it take to actually get it started? And this is the minimum requirements. Cool. And if we pull that up in the shared area, it's like, how do we get through to get this TOML file that actually will take these key concepts and translate them, so it's not this one document that keeps getting updated. There's lots of mechanisms there that would be good to stand on the shoulders of lots of engineering hours, like decades of engineering hours on top of those shoulders, rather than
reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, this wheel is well honed, and I would recommend, so I would encourage them to look at what's different and what's the same about the approaches that they're currently using with something that's scaling at the scale of Kubernetes on the cloud.
Beautiful. will pass along, and that link you've just put into the notes here, yeah?
Yep. I added it to the notes, and I was also going to add a link to Indigo's lovely thing. And I think what I'll do, I think I can just take a screenshot, which is kind of fun. So let's go up here and say, oop, because it says SIG-docs localizations. How nice is that? And we'll grab it so it says thank you, Indy, and we'll go picture. And we'll go back over to our HackMD, which is now sitting over here. And we'll go here. Here's lots of the links. We had our document that we were editing over here. And then I'm going to add another thing for Indy's Terreo as the language of the cloud. If I were just to put it in my hope and dreams, but that's that, and I'm going to copy a link to the Slack. I would encourage anyone to pop in there and voice your thoughts,
Nice.
including and we got the localization link under there that she links to. So I think that's enough. Thank you, Indy, and thank you, Joe.
Cool. Is Indy working out of your study there, Chris, or?
No, she's at home. And what we've tried to do is to encourage. So we've got a couple of encouragements that we offer as II and a couple of motivations that we offer at II. The encouragements are things that are for everybody, and then there's some motivations that we offer to different groups of people. The encouragements are we have free access from the CNCF, the Cloud Native Compute Foundation, for training for Kubernetes and all of its things. And if we don't take them up on that, that would be unwise. And we also have free certifications, so you can take the test a few times and get a certification, which means you can get paid, because you will now be able to get a job. If you search on TradeMe or List, whatever, the Seek, and what was the other one, everybody? It doesn't matter. There's like 300 plus jobs for Kubernetes now. And if you're in the high tier, it's like 170 easy. And I'd say to the junior role, somewhere between 50 to 70. Like there's money to be had, and you can go find it, but we want to make sure that we're connecting people to that. And since we're giving away free training, free certification, free conferences to connect and get the relationship industry, and free relationship to connect to paid internships at these places, I'm amazed at how little interaction we have had. And that was why we did something recently that did have a whole lot of wonderful benefit, and that was under ii.nz, scroll down in stories, and this time at the top, we had a career expo.
Nice.
Canvas careers thing. 5,000 students came by in one form or another and got to see a bunch of cool things. And there's a video. We don't put any video from the event because it's kids, and that's not okay. We didn't find a way for that to work. But this HackMD, which can someone else take over editing in the thing and drop the links that as I'm talking? So it's hard to talk and type. This debrief / retrospective, looking back to that, I think, pretty pivotal event for II, as we kind of came out of the shed out in Ohowidi and brought our toys to town. It for some people, it finally made sense and it clicked. And there's this culture and immersion for me about where II and Hippie Hacker comes from. And it is not New Zealand, it's very North American. It's very Texas. It's me, right? This is who I'm bringing. And it's a lot about Mr. Rogers and the television network that he created. It's a lot about the philosophical statement that I hope we have a mirror image of here that helped him defund the war effort in Vietnam to ensure that we had public stations on channel 13 in most areas where everybody would fundraise and say, what programs do you want at your local place? And I also think it would be good to go and look at this time in front of Congress and go watch a couple of the movies about Rogers recently. If you want to know me, if you want to know II, you need to know Rogers.
There's even a good movie about Mr. Rogers with
Absolutely.
Tom Hanks.
There's one with Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Yeah.
My favorite one is actually a documentary called "Won't You Be My Neighbor," which is put together by, I believe, who the movie was about. the author of that article in the New York Times.
Right.
And there was a beautiful piece where Joanne is talking about Fred's time in front of Congress, and she says, well, I forget the guy's name off the top of my head, but the senator was like, I'm tired of hearing everybody read their statements. Just talk to me about this. This is sometime just before Rogers takes the stand. And she could hear in his voice how nervous he was. And this is where he went through and said, here's a philosophical statement that'll take 10 minutes to read, but I won't read it. Would it make you happy if you read it? No, that's okay. I trust that you will read this, because the first thing that a child learns in a healthy relationship is trust. And I trust that you will read this. And with that philosophical statement, with some children's songs, he was able to tell them, you can stop when you want to, you can stop when you wish, you can stop anytime. And what a good feeling to feel like this and know that the feeling is really mine. These things that Rogers brought to his nation changed the course of history. And I think we're here to do something similar in New Zealand.
Sure. Absolutely.
Encourage you to go look at that Twitter link from 8 years ago where I gave a laptop away at the end of a presentation that's all steeped in what I had just learned about Maori culture through the parables and stories and code. And I think I've shared this with you at one point in the past, Joe. But what's fun is at the end of that particular one, I gave a laptop away to someone that came to present to our youth here at the event. And we've already talked about Indigo and her amazing work. One thing that we did that was so cool was run some slides on how many meters was it, Stephen?
Sorry, how many monitors?
Well, how many meters and how many monitors? We had a lot of screens.
It was 13 meters of monitors.
We ran
about 15 screens long.
We ran this on every screen. And I don't know if anyone, have you had a chance to drive this, Joe?
No.
Would you mind taking it for a drive?
For sure.
What's fun about this, Joe, is that this is on my computer running, and from your phone somewhere else in the world, you're able to get a choice of things, and it's awaiting your selection now, which is also, I see it here that you're awaiting your selection. What part of, open source and a career would you like to hear more about? And I think art and design is a lovely thing to get started in technology, because like you're saying, it's not important that you know technology. It's important that you have a relationship with a community of people to support you in that.
Absolutely. This is cool, Chris.
It's not bad. If you'll progress the slides forward, you're obviously in control of this, and I'll speak to them.
Okay, I've just clicked on a link. Okay, so.
Open source for art. There's a lot of fun tools, and I wish that Zach was here because his wife picked up an old, what is it? Microsoft Surface. And it was too expensive to afford all the tools that require monthly things. And she installed this beautiful set of Linux things with the pen, and she does digital art and makes a living. Hey, I think that's what she uses is Krita. It's like Photoshop, but things that aren't even there. And she works with someone else who saw her rig and made something even cooler, but was technical and started taking her ideas and making the code. And now she has updated things from a friend. And you can't get that in Photoshop. That was just a relationship between someone who saw her kit and said that was so cool as an artist. She also uses Inkscape. And I think I use Inkscape whenever I want to do SVG graphics. Caleb, don't you use Inkscape now and then?
That's right.
It's like Illustrator, but we can change it. Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, I like Inkscape because at least it's a little bit easier to get everything to line up. And also you can scale it out, some pretty big stuff.
Stephen's got good Blender stories too.
Yeah, Blender's pretty cool. Canadian film company, animation studio, their main tool is Blender. And Netflix bought a movie that they made using Blender for 30 million.
It's a huge program to learn, right? I tried to get an organization locally, a corporation actually, to use open source software, but the young man who has been well trained in Studio FX and all of the rest of them, you know, couldn't make the jump from the proprietary to the open source software, which is a shame.
That's too bad we don't teach it in our schools, eh?
Exactly, totally.
Quick question, Joe.
Yeah.
How long ago was that roughly?
So we started the project at the kind of beginning of 2020. By the end of last year, we had made a decision to move off all of the open source software that I'd kind of encouraged the project to get started with. It was basically, the project's still ongoing. It's recording the kōrero from some of the kaumatua associated with a particular land block here in Tauranga Moana, and editing those movies to be part of another open source project that Venture Centre is working alongside, which is AHO, which is a sovereign data digital whakapapa project, which is a lot of fun and fascinating to work on, and it also happens to be my whānau. So there's lots of learning on every single level about you know, about the history, which has been awesome for my two tamariki to learn along with their mother about their whakapapa.
Were you just suggesting the next topic?
Was I
with
just
the how?
With the hoe?
Yeah, with the how? Yeah.
Yeah,
just saying.
Before I do though, I just want to share a little user experience.
Absolutely.
Being a designer and, you know, UX and what have you, what's going on my phone screen is not what I'm seeing on the screen in Slack and the slides. I don't know whether you can see that. It's really like the content that's in the
Absolutely. Middle. Caleb, do you want to speak to
that? So for some reason on your display, it's not popping up, but there's meant to be controls. So there'll be 4 arrows in each corner. And the content on your phone is to display as the controller to de-emphasize that you're meant to be paying attention on your phone. Great. And it's to emphasize to pay attention on the thing that you scanned. But I'm not sure why the arrows aren't pointing up. There's large arrows in each side of the screen.
It would look like this. Yeah, they're sort of there, but it looks more like, yeah, see Noah? Noah's got big ones. That's better.
I think Noah took control.
That may be what happened. So because there's a QR code, anybody can take it over because it's in a public place.
Yeah.
Cool. So because we're sharing this in the room, Noah hacked the system here. Thank you, Noah, for demonstrating the mad hacking skills.
So where is just before we move on to Ho, where is that that QR code? Because that would be awesome to share for Summer to share with the wharikura, so that it can be used.
Sure. Right now so we could probably put it somewhere else, but it's under ii.nz, under stories, under the breakdown for the HackMD, and on this page, and there's Korea's Expo. We could put it in this markdown. It's not, I guess it was meant, because the cloud, like here, can somebody else, I'm gonna not add that, I'm gonna let somebody else drag that over.
Okay.
But that URL was meant to network boot from a bunch of Raspberry Pis with no network cards or disk or anything in them. They just boot. And so it was the cloud. And it's not really meant to be a URL that we use in the way that you're suggesting. I think that's a beautiful direction to go, but it wasn't the use case for us to try to bring our students who are physically there with us. What we encourage is them to take a thing, and then we could talk to those slides at their pace.
Yeah.
So that they could be in control. We have the source code to our entire application under II Expo Prezo for how we did it, including the slides, which are lovingly done and created by Zach Mandeville, who's down in Wellington, but we flew him up for the conference.
Okay, right, nice. Okay, thank you. Because it's a challenge, right? So getting young people, you know, rangatahi, interested in the back end, you know, the open source, the data sovereignty, the, you know, actually building the tools that aren't necessarily the kind of the sexier ones in terms of the storytelling stuff. Do you know what I mean? And getting interested and excited.
Sexy's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, it's a challenge. So that is a really useful small thing, right? Small message sending, distributing tool. So,
it was amazing to see in person with the 13 meters of screen, and we had nearly 20, I think it was 19 screens.
cool.
So to see in front of you physically a cloud helped it become real to people. What is it? Well, that is the cloud. What is it? It's a screen, but what then? Oh, it's a little computer, and all those computers are just orchestrated. How are they connected? Oh, there's just an old laptop over there that's telling them what to do.
Yeah,
that's a cloud.
That's the thing, right? Demonstrating rather than
You can talk about it all day, but until they can touch it and turn it off, and we had clickies to power off all the pies, so you hit a button and it turns them all off. Hit a button and turns them all on, and they would boot, and you'd see everything from the ground up come up. I really wish you could have seen it. It was a whole lot of work on our part.
Well, I'm wondering, Jay, you have a good connection with what's her name? Maui Hangaro.
Fina and Patawa.
Fina.
Yes.
So I know Patawa, but you know Afina, right? So that kind of thing could be really cool at a Maui Hangaro event, to set that up and have that kind of built in front of, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hippie and I have been talking about that a bit lately, and I'm actually catching up with Afina about all this tomorrow morning. So
good timing.
Yeah, perfect timing.
The timing of things has been somewhat incredible, Joe.
Nice.
And I want to, I don't know, I would say this is like the best one, but there's been so many. This is an example of the timing of incredible things coming together that have nothing to do with my effort or attempts to change things. I helped to do things at CNCF. And since Dan passed, there's been a huge gap there. And the new leadership is a lovely Indian woman who lives in California and is the new GM. So she's like the CEO of the cloud. I meet with her once a week for about an hour to kind of set for the strategic initiatives, the vision and direction, and the 5, and they make sure we're heading in the right direction. And our meetings are normally at 9 o'clock on Fridays. And she said she wasn't available, which is fine because I was like, I'm at an event. It's going to be kind of intense. And my wires got crossed and she shows up.
To this
And-
meetup.
No, to the career expo.
Oh, cool. Oh,
right.
perfect.
And so that's why in first session, none of the people on this call are technical.
Nice.
And as we're setting up 13 meters of our desk style with these screens all across, and I get my camera ready to do the thing, there is the entrance to the Mirai right behind me getting set up by our friends that you and Jay and you two were talking about.
Nice.
And not only is that there, it's got LEDs going up the side, right in the middle of it. And as I'm setting this up, realizing what's happening, and then Priyanka shows up, and then a haka starts playing over the loudspeakers. And I'm like, Howdy Mai, Priyanka.
That's
Welcome
New
to
Zealand
New
magic
Zealand.
for you. That's New Zealand magic. That's
It was absolutely magical, Joe. And for her to tell her story of coming from India to go through her journey to become the leader of the CNCF, and what II means to her, and how we assist that organization to set the vision and direction for the cloud globally, and how her staff, who was already on the agenda, Bill Mulligan, his OKRs, which are like objectives for the year, one of his objectives, he gets paid for this, is to increase participation with universities in the Southern Hemisphere. Hence me inviting him to tell the offer of all the free connections and training and certification and onboarding to eventually internships.
nice.
And she introduced another person, again, non-technical, who moved to Spain to work with refugees, but learned Arabic in order to do so. And I think they do storage or something, but these are not technical. Steven, speak.
If you look in the chat, the last picture, if you bring it up, that's when you were actually talking to Priyanka.
Aw, thank you. I'm clicking
And the
to
one
open somewhere.
above it.
Oh, here we go. So we'll bring this over here up to the ATEM. Oh yeah, check out that shot.
Nice.
Where's this other one?
The other one's a back one from Saturday, showing the length of the true.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that shot. This is the screens. That's a lot of screen.
That's
Very cool, Stephen.
It's 15 screens lengthwise with 3 on top of the ones in the center.
Awesome. And one little laptop in the middle.
Yeah, the laptop is what it's all running off. That's the one above my head is my old laptop that I bought while traveling in an RV with my children for a year.
And you can also see it in the background of where Hippie is right there.
Oh yeah, it's actually over my shoulder. It runs the cloud here. It's move my that's that one.
That's where ii.nz is running.
That's right, because I didn't want to use .nz when it wasn't on our soil.
Yeah.
Feels good.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
The next person who came to speak, remember that laptop I gave away 8 years ago? I said, if you'll carry this forward and take the viral generosity and do all the things, his name was JJ Ashgar. He went on to work at Chef, which was where I was working at the time, and is now awesome at IBM.com.
Wow, cool. There is so much opportunity, right? Like there is just, it's a pathway to a whole world of, awesome stuff that makes the world better and earns some decent coin as well.
Yes, I think, and it's trying to encourage people to see beyond the coin, because what happens is I've gone through and helped different people on the journey and sometimes expose them to, when you come from scarcity and you're exposed to that much abundance, it can change you. And ensuring that, at least for my time and energy, that I find people, Fred Rogers, I think it was his grandmother that said this, and he quotes it a lot. when the world is hard, look for the helpers. And that's all I do is I look to my left, I look to my right, and I find people who are helping, and those are the people that get my time. Those are the people that get my resources, and those are my people.
Yeah.
And for those who choose to go down, and it is an I thing, that's their choice. I want to do I things, which is all of us.
And you and look at who you're surrounded by.
These are my peeps. What can I say? We're all helpers.
I just dropped the article that Chris
There you go.
had, posted.
Rogers and panic buying and scrolling down. Speaking of panic buying, when I was a boy and I would see things in the news, scary things, my mom would say, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.
It's a good quote for right where we are today.
Yeah. It's good. It's so good. Thank you, Stephen. You're wonderful at bringing along the right context and pictures and photos at the right moment.
Glad I can help.
Close us back to somewhere a little closer. Ooh, I've opened a lot of tabs. That was good story time there. Second, third. So the second day, this was lovely Allison Doudney. I tried to hang out with her when I found out she was here in our area when she was first getting into Kubernetes, but Hamilton is a lifetime away when you're focused on your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And she was focused on her neighborhood, which was great because obviously she had a lot of things that she learned from being at the university and was able to find employment, really good paying employment that helped her to move overseas. And now she lives in London as one of the developer advocates for, I forget the company, but Weaveworks, and Weaveworks has been on the governing board. If I don't know, they're up there as far as being with the cloud for a long time. And in particular, she is a co-chair of the contributor experience, which is the journey from I've never seen any of this stuff to helping other people define what the journey is. So she's a journeyman. I don't know. She knows how it's done and is helping others to do it. And there's a beautiful photo on Twitter that you should definitely redo because this is me, Duffy, who created the Apple PIE, the Platform Infrastructure Engineering, that underpins iCloud, and Aaron Krickenberger. And we're part of a group called SIGBeard. And SIGBeard is all about including everybody in the you've got a long beard stereotype of old tech. So the old guard here is also the young guard with beautiful, long, flowing facial hair that's just wrapped around rather than being coming out of your chin and under your nose.
I was just thinking I can do that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to SIGBeard, Joe. I'll get you a pin.
All I need to do is use that.
We need to get Stephen, Jay, Caleb, and Noah. Oh no, Caleb's coming along. Sorry, Caleb. That was a beautiful thing, and what's lovely is she was actually a student of one of the current people within the administration of the Waikato University, is Dr. Petros. And I look forward to him and then the stuff that he's doing in the cloud to connect deeply with what we're doing here. I think there's some beautiful things for collaboration. And so Spiffx is a friend of mine. He happens to work at Google, but he's much more than that, and is helping coordinate a lot of the infrastructure engineering for the community as a whole. And later in the day, we had a very encouraging neurodivergent non-binary. And it's super lovely to follow Kieran's journey from being in Auckland to getting in the cloud and now living overseas as a developer advocate in the US. And they were so encouraging. And I got to go into quite a bit of detail with them about our encouragements and our motivators for our New Zealand students. And I haven't said this yet on the call, but beyond what the CNCF is offering, II is offering a free computer to any student who will go through and become a Kubernetes contributor. And this is where I bring out my motivational speaker keyboard. Ta-da! I've been working on this keyboard for over 3 decades. I learned to type on it when the connector was as big as my thumb, and then I had a dongle to go to something as big as my pinky, and then from my pinky to USB, and now it's all inside of here, connected to a thing that makes a Bluetooth. Awesome. And it's nice, but the stickers are what's important here. This is the Linux Foundation, and this is the open source foundation that funds II's work as we help them set the direction and vision for the cloud. We actually defined, Stephen in particular helps define the warrant of fitness for the cloud, the exact steps that every cloud provider must pass. And we argue back and forth with the people at Google and Amazon and a bunch of other places what exactly that means. But he actually codifies it into you must be this tall to ride globally. Thank you, Stephen, for the clouds.
It's such a lovely way of explaining it too.
I want to be clear that we do define what the cloud is in the most concrete way.
II and Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen, he's in the room.
Defines for the globe how
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
As a cloud service provider globally.
And this sticker here.
Web server, you need to listen.
I look forward to more of our community hearing and understanding what it is that we do, and how important it would be for us to start wielding that authority as a community.
Absolutely, it's
instead of some. And I got a video we'll watch later. The crazy guy dancing that slowly gets friends to come join. This is actually a patch. Is a gang patch for the Cloud Gang.
Yeah. And
this gang patches cannot be purchased. You have to earn it. And you earn it by easiest way is creating 8 to 10 pull requests, although there are other ways. And when you do those 8 to 10 pull requests, you will go through a process to say, please sponsor me someone. I would love to sponsor you, as would anybody at II. And then get someone from the Kubernetes community to be your second sponsor to say, yes, they have 10 PRs or so. Please let them join the organization.
Yeah.
Stephen, I loved the day that you got that. Can you tell us a bit more about that day when you got your PR in for joining the gang?
As Hippie puts it, I was grunting for 2 weeks.
It was
pretty cool to have it where I can join such a very vast and pretty awesome group of people to be able to actually help them with cloud stuff. But it's the journey only had started and it's still continuing, and it's really cool to have it where in time confidence comes through. But yeah, it was really interesting, especially when I finally gave Hippie the interesting analogy of the car going to VTNZ to get its warrant of fitness.
I use that all the time now. That was the best analogy, the best.
And it's like, this is how I try to explain it to family. I'm writing the checklist for these various types of clouds that are coming through to get their certification badge. And it seems to have gelled. Is an interesting way to explain it. Because if it's not got the appropriate checks, how safe do you feel putting your personal data on that cloud?
Absolutely. Yeah. Has it got a seatbelt? does it have disc brakes?
What's really fun is that there were some issues this week with the, what would you call it when the VT&Z station wasn't, like, they were going to the VTN station and going through the checklist, and then we actually verify that they did the entire checklist and they were failing. So if we go over to the request for please certify me, you can see that it says required test missing from Typhoon. I'm not picking on Typhoon, it's just that there is a test missing. And I'll bet if we look at our CNCFCI, that's our robot that checks to make sure that theirs are there, and it says it's missing a test. What it was missing was a disruptive test, because it would hurt the cluster, and the default, there's actually, Caleb, can you explain? I'm befuddled and you were the master of figuring out all of these things.
So there's a tool that we use for running these tests. So like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It could be like the pen and paper that we mark against. Maybe we're just the paper had been like we had written the full checklist, and then right at the bottom someone had guillotined the bottom, and then when they handed it back to us, it didn't match what we had, so it was kind of a bit of an issue. So I discovered the issue with it, which was the pen and paper, and we managed to make sure that everyone has the right sized bit of paper with all of the things that we originally wrote.
Nice.
We reached out to VMware, who actually writes that software, and we said, hey, VMware. Vladimir is our contact there. We noticed that everybody was failing their warrant of fitness starting on this day because they weren't doing this checklist, which, did you write that, Stephen?
That one, no.
This is a node test. So
it's a node test, you're right. But it needed to be run and it wasn't. And Vladimir at VMware said, thank you. There was an update, and we fixed it a day later. It only took them a day. This was the change that they made. And I'll bring that, fix a regression. So we actually got them to fix a regression in the, what would you call this? In the VT&Z, in the person who executes the checklist on your vehicle or on your cloud. And they made a change to fix it so that the Kubernetes version was respected, and they ran all the tests.
It's really challenging to be able to explain so that it's not abstract concepts, you know, like this is lawmaking for the future, right? In the hands of a distributed community that is designing the safety features for the thing that we use to run our lives, right?
Yes, and I do believe that if we don't step up to the plate to set the vocabulary and the culture, that we will be on the receiving end of that, just like television, right?
Exactly.
When television came out in the 50s and 60s, you look at how unique and different New Zealand culture was. And then we started getting TV sets. Sure, there was TV 1, 2, and 3 eventually, but they were all programs from overseas. And all of a sudden, all the culture of the world kind of got homogenized into stuff coming out of Hollywood or people that had resources to create programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think that's okay. I think the diversity of each people group and nation and neighborhood have something unique, and that the world will miss out if we squash all of that into homogenized, bland, non-spicy mess.
But that's the thing that is challenging about this, right? Like, it's super fucking exciting, right? Like it really is world domination stuff, right?
Absolutely.
But it's in what looks to a non-techie person, you know, and a non-math person and a you know what I mean, like a black screen, markdown, all of that stuff, you know, it doesn't look like the movies world domination, right?
But
Like
we're rounding that corner, Joe, and let me tell you how. The encouragement is great, but the motivation is what we've been missing. And so I, on top of all the other things that are just there from the CNCF for our local community, and I'd suggest if any student in New Zealand did it and came by the offices, I'd still offer this.
Yeah.
Is that if they go through and get the shiny badge that they can't buy, but they have to earn, they can come get that badge from me because I'm the one that holds them for New Zealand.
Awesome.
And not only will I give them the badge to join the gang, I'm going to give them a computer.
Yeah.
Now, what's neat about this computer is it is the computer that we ran the cloud on for that event. It's just a bunch of Raspberry Pi 4s, but in a form factor that will be usable by them. This is just a Raspberry Pi 400, which is a Pi 4 inside of there with a keyboard. And we give the student everything they need except the screen. So they can use any old TV and connect this up and begin to learn how to wield
The
technology and the power from their own hands. And that is the first gift, is helping them connect to a community, to have a shared identity with the cloud, to bring the uniqueness that is them through that keyboard to their local community. So the cloud is not some intangible foreign thing, but something that they, with their pairs, with their other eyes, with the people next to them, can create something new.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just agreeing. I'm agreeing. Like, it's not a story that's out there really.
Well, let's change that.
Because yeah, and there is so much that New Zealand can offer, that Tangata Whenua can offer as well, in terms of the bit that I'm really involved in with AHO, with Venture Centre, with New Zealand OSS Society, with Rob, with the Cardano stuff, which is the allocation of resources to things that are important, right, for our kids, for us and for our kids, you know, like the prioritization of resources to the safety belts and to the, you know, to the handbrake and to the disc brakes and all of that stuff, but also to you know, making sure that resources are spent on the right things, you know, preserving our whenua, you know, looking after our young people, educating everybody well so everybody can participate in governance more effectively.
Absolutely.
You know, like all of those things. It starts with these bloody black markdown screens.
Steven's raising his hand. I want to make sure he gets a chance to speak.
Do you remember our earlier discussion around console? You
asking me or Joe? Or
well, Joe, have you heard of console?
No. Go to the link.
Console project.
Console project. Nice.
It's that second one, Chris. Sorry.
Citizen participation.
Console. How we do this together.
Awesome.
And the UN says she'll be right.
So it's created in Madrid.
Nice.
Ooh, do we have the link for that other thing that's hosted by Catalyst that does all the potholes? That's for our city council to look at.
Fix my street.
Fix my street.
Yeah, Fix My Street NZ, and it's probably just like it sounds, fixmystreet.org.nz. And let's go to our neighborhood, which is the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, and take a look at the old list of bits and bobs. Maybe it's Tauranga City Council.
Yeah, just go.
I think it is. I got to go back. It's not like that. It's.
I'm just looking at console. Just imagine. We actually, you know, like, thanks Tauranga City Council, we have just set up an instance of console. And all the hapu in the Bay of Plenty are using console, and here are our decisions. Right, so listen up. It's awesome. Free software participation, that's great.
It would be great for the map here on the website to suddenly show
New Zealand lit up.
New Zealand and the
it's
having a because at the moment, because it's come from more of a Spanish speaking cultural background, it's gone predominantly for South America.
Yeah, of course. Yep. Again, you know, like a opportunity for Toreo instructions, and, you know, making it absolutely right for Aotearoa is an opportunity here. Look, it's got debates, it's got citizen proposals, it's got participatory budgeting, voting, collaborative legislation. Far out, man, it's awesome.
And considering it's got the United Nations.
It's the rails, right? It's the rails for participatory democracy.
There's a long list of places that do the thing together well.
Shit.
Wow, let's keep scrolling. There's a dossier there. That'd be fun.
It would be very hard for anyone to dismiss the fact that it's been backed by the United Nations as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting into that one.
I think that's one of the problems with some open source software, is because it doesn't have any validation from certain places, that it ends up being easily dismissed as like it's not real software, or it doesn't have real value there.
I'm not sure that that's necessarily true. I think it's more just the I wrote a piece back in 2013. I hadn't been in New Zealand that long at that point. Well, been in New Zealand since 2007 with Craig, but I had a baby in my arms when I arrived, so didn't do too much the first few years. But I think it was 2012 or 2013, I wrote a piece about my insights from being a new resident here in New Zealand at that point, which was New Zealand is its biggest strength is its entrepreneurial talent, you know. Māori or Tauiwi, right? Like some incredible people here, right? And it's also its biggest weakness, because these kinds of pieces of software, you know, they're seen, but then for some reason we decide that we want to reinvent the wheel. You know, like you were saying earlier about that translation app, you know, let's not use that. Let's start again completely, right?
Yeah.
And the weight of engineering and the time that's required and the lack of funding for public goods in this country means that the projects stall and energy gets wasted, you know, and that's the opportunity for the New Zealand Open Source Society and for ii and for, you know, everybody, is the beauty of open source tools, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of hours already invested, and the overlay of the tikanga, the rules, you know, is totally not just possible, but also would contribute massively back to the rest of the world, right? Like, this is how we do things, right? Yes, you have written that bit wrong. This is how it needs to be, because it doesn't fit tikanga. It's not, you know, it's not right for, you know, community participation. This is how we do it, and we're going to write it, but not throw everything out because there are thousands and thousands of hours of engineering in there, you know. It's
I think I can summarize that in a different way, Joe, where everyone's afraid to publish what they're working on for fear that someone will get ahead. And what they're missing out on is that by making sure we all get ahead, we all get ahead. And it's fine to have some polish and things on the outside to brand it for your beautiful story. But for all of us to succeed together is probably better. Wait a second. When I first came into New Zealand many years ago, there was a mural painted on the wall of the airport, and it said, "If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together." And that Kiwi cultural thing around the ingenuity and the team of 5 million really resonated with me and has been part of. I've integrated that into my life since then.
Yeah, massive opportunity. Hey guys, I'm gonna have to run off and make
So glad you were able to come in, Joe. Great to see you.
Arno their dinner this evening.
I'm getting mine delivered.
Thank you.
See you, Jay.
Thanks, Chris, for hosting. Good to see you.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
See you
Joe.
again sometime soon.
Definitely.
Bye, Joe.
See you, Joe.
Thank you, Fano. Always inspiring.
See
Same.
you, Joe.
Thank you, Jay.
Cool beans. That was fun. Noah, did you want to? We kind of circled back for a bit to make room for others.
That's all right. Yeah, I know what else now. Yeah, so that was really interesting.
Yeah, that was really cool. Thank you for helping correct my spelling. I am always super thankful when someone comes along behind and cleans up the mess I make.
Yeah.
It's a happy mess.
It is a happy, beautiful hot mess. Noah, thank you for giving us a tiki tour of your cloud. I wonder if it wouldn't be useful for maybe Caleb to give you a tiki tour of his cloud.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Which one? I
don't know, Caleb. Why don't you drive and share, and we'll all follow along at home.
I have to think. Okay.
If you want,
so when you say my cloud, do you mean the one running right next to me, or?
It's up to you. This is you be you. If you want to share your one in your house, or if you want to share a pair.
I kind of broke the one in my house earlier.
That's fair. We come back to that another week. Yeah. We have another cloud. It's not in New Zealand yet.
Yeah, we have a thing called hair. So I think Hippie is showing a screen.
I am showing my screen, but I'll let you talk and you tell me where to drive, or you can share either way. I'm definitely this is the shiny gem in your that you have, and I'll support you in that.
This cloud is a cloud that we use for building out software and things that we were working on. So like today I was using it to work on the website, and Stephen uses it for writing the Kubernetes tests, and Zach was using it today for Envoy and all of the different things. I use it for all of the things. But this one allows you to spin up a computer on the fly, and it comes preloaded with things to pair with people. So you want to work on a project, you put in that project, and then it will ask you for guests that you may want to share the computer with, and then it will invite them and add their SSH keys, and you can pair with them on the project, and it gives you Kubernetes, and it gives you DNS and all of the things. But why don't we jump in and create one?
Would you like me to drive and create one and invite you both, or would you like to drive?
Maybe you should go.
Okay.
So you can choose to log in and say, I want all of the permissions for GitHub, or I just want read only, but
I've got a few organizations.
it seems as
Authorize the
such.
thing using a password that is somewhere in my LastPass. Just a second.
Make sure you don't share the password on the screen.
Yes, thank you very much. We'll paste it into the chat so everybody can have access to all my things. I'm just kidding.
Thanks.
I have many factors of authentication, and this is one of them.
It'd be pretty stink if the password is 123, wouldn't it? That's just people
Oops,
said.
now you know all my secrets. So,
From here, we can go and create a new computer. And so you can go new. And then you can put in the repos. So for instance, you could do ii.nz. Oh, that's not going to work. You need to go https GitLab ii.nz. That's what it is. And you could do, what else is the CNCF API snake, which you bring in the Kubernetes testing stuff. I think those two would be a good example. And then you can put in flat track, which would be, I forget what it is on GitHub. Try the GitLab one, https gitlab.com/flattrack/flattrack. Cool. Now
yes.
that our repos that we want to pair on, we can invite guests. So here's where I put the GitHub usernames. So it's case sensitive, so that's my username. And then you can go.
Can I have yours?
It's literally just, I'm pretty sure, I'll double check on mine is.
You could add hasty.
It's literally just knowable, one word.
Haste. Cool.
That.
And it's gonna have Hippie because he's creating.
I am Hippie. Environment variables. What are these?
You can put things to have globally in the environment only if you need them. Those are very good environment variables. I think they
always have foobar and bash.
And then you can put launch. You won't normally have access to a custom name, so we'll just avoid that one. And then let's go launch. And then the computer is going to be created. And
is there anything special about this computer?
This computer is a real piece of hardware that it's provisioned over Pixie, and it's currently running in the States. But you could run it anywhere if you changed a few things. And it gives you Kubernetes. So you actually live inside of a cluster, which is quite a fun thing.
Take this public link and share it inside of the chat. That's not it. This is mine. I'm on the public link. Now this is the public. Oh, it's been updated to have a really cool noting that you're on the public link. Everybody that's in the chat now has access to the public link. I am going to navigate back away from the public link.
And so it'll take about 10 minutes to come up. If you were the one who created the instance, or you're signed in and are viewing the instance page, you'll have access to that SOS link. And that is a thing that I'm not sure who can actually use it, but at least I can, to pull up the logs of what's actually happening. So,
yeah, it won't let me go in because I'm not a member of the GitHub org, but oh well.
It won't let you go onto what side?
It won't let me follow that. Well, yeah, it won't let me in because
if you'll follow the public instance link, it will work for you.
Okay.
And if you'll log in, you won't be able to create a new one yet, but you should be able to go to all and see the ones you've been invited to.
It's not showing up. Yeah, I can use the public link just to view, but I can't log in.
Yeah,
I don't have public keys.
You won't be able to sign. Well, you'll be able to sign in, but you won't be able to do anything because you're not a member of the Kubernetes org. So anyone who's in the Kubernetes org can.
The motivation to get to the Kubernetes org.
Yeah.
It's either the Kubernetes org II or sharing IO, which is what this is.
I don't have my public
But,
keys. They're on a laptop that I sent away.
Okay, that's fun. I think I might be able to bring it up if I go to head up sharing video, and then get all instances. I see this one for HH, and copy the thing, and
You want to drop a teammate session
that'd
the
be useful.
SSH to the SOS so that everyone
I
can see
would.
the SOS session dropping.
Mhm.
So Caleb is going to take this SOS link and put it inside of a teammate session and grant everybody access to that, at least read only, so that we can see the text scrolling by of the hardware booting into its BIOS and firmware, because it's real hardware. It is not virtual anything.
I'll drop this in the Zoom chat.
Yes, thank you. And I will, and everyone else is also welcome. I'm going to copy what he pasted there and drop it into the chat. And it just works. So this is the pre-flight of Kubernetes getting initialized and Kubernetes coming up on real hardware.
Mhm.
We get donated this compute power from Ed at what was Packet, and they were purchased by Equinix. And they have some of the largest data centers for hardware all around the world. Looks like we're ready. The Kubernetes control plane will finish coming up shortly, and our post-init scripts run. And I'll stop talking because this is Caleb's beautiful gem.
So now it's initializing all of the apps that are running it in order for us to be able to pair very well. And there is Nginx Ingress. You're already familiar with Nginx. This one's slightly different, but it does web traffic, which is nice. We also have a DNS that is running on your instance that it will bring traffic in. And
I mean,
will
this
allow
is
you,
like Cloudflare, Caleb. What do you mean by DNS?
so you have access to all of the DNS records that you could ever want beneath your instance name, .pair.sharing.io. So that allows you to really go crazy with your methods of development and building the cool things. So you've got a few ways you can connect right there. The kube config, that's a Kubernetes way of connecting. If you refresh a bit later on, you'll have a button to say, I would like to join this computer. And then it puts you into a terminal that allows you to do things. But right now, we're just waiting for the DNS to reconcile.
If you copy this string here, and I'm going to test it real quick to make sure that it works.
It won't work yet because
Okay. And I don't have kubectl on my Mac.
Problematic.
If you have kubectl installed on your computer and you type in this command here that I'm dropping into the chat, it will download the public URL for the kubeconfig file for you to use Kubernetes from your local laptop or workstation to control all of this cloud as a root user.
Okay, DNS is getting further.
See how DNS is coming along? No, I saw you, but I didn't hear you.
Oh, it's all right.
So we have DNS now, and then we're just waiting for the TLS to come up. So you get full TLS, a wildcard one. So any host that you would like to use on your pair instance, you have, and of course DNS, as I said before. So you're literally working out of the web, and these computers are ephemeral, so you maybe delete it at the end of the day or anything like that. That's what we do. And I think I refresh.
I didn't even see what URL it's
Okay.
going to use. Is this
So
page
if,
change?
if you'd like to return to the instance page and refresh, you'll notice a few things.
Hey, join pair. How
So
fun is that?
you can connect with either clicking on the pair button, or you can join over SSH. And then you've also got, if you go back, you've also got a few things that have come up. So if you see on sites available, we've got FlatTrack, we've got the II website, we've got web server, we've got multiplex, which is used for the cool presentations like the ones at the Careers Expo. And you've also got Grafana. And so www, multiplex, and Grafana come up on every instance, but FlatTrack and ii.nz,
We're waiting for a
ii.nz,
certificate. Yeah.
those ones are special because we told it to clone ii.nz, and it's also special because we told it to clone FlatTrack. So if you jump into that teammate session, the other one, so now we actually have the what do you call it? We have the teammate session where you can go and start working on stuff inside of your web browser even. Yes, Steve?
Yeah, I just want to bump the font a little bit so it's a little bit easier to follow. And Hippie, is there any chance to move the picture-in-picture to the top?
Ah, sorry, I'll just turn it off. We don't need it.
Or,
Let's turn it off. Yeah. Oh, the ATEM stopped responding. That's new.
is it overheated?
Heck, it's not making any noise. Oh, and my mic's been off the whole time for the stream. Well, you got one side of the conversation there. Maybe it's because something is set and I don't know. Let's do SS sources because we're at program and you're wanting the pip, and the pip is like locked. So macros, SS looks, SS transition, one full, two box. That's super source. It is locked. I don't know. Well, I'm afraid if I turn it on again or turn it off again, it will. Give me a second to figure out how to control the ATEM. Oh, that's real sad that I turned off my mic to go walk away for a minute and didn't realize that I had muted everything for the recording for later.
Yeah, I've probably got to go soon.
Fair.
It's okay.
This is come and go as you please. So pair is fun, and you could have some fun learning about that at some point. And this is the little tiki tour of that cloud. What was useful for you today? And what would you like to see in the future?
I think this is pretty interesting. I'd kind of like to learn a bit more about just the Kubernetes base in general, like the way you configure it, the way you set it up, and the way you just get it working so you can do whatever you please with it. Yeah, that would be cool.
Absolutely.
Understand the raw components first a bit more.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
A good place to start is Kubernetes.Dev.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of people in there, including a long-haired hippie and a couple of my other friends. And under the documentation, there's a getting started. Now, this is definitely for the contribution side versus using Kubernetes. Caleb, you were actually thinking about the using Kubernetes side a bit more than I have recently. Did you have any thoughts on first steps in that direction?
I'll jump to Kubernetes.io. And then you go to documentation. And then you have a few, hold there for a sec. So you have a few things there. You can actually try Kubernetes without installing it anywhere. There's a thing that we can get to from the Try Kubernetes page that allows you to interact with it over the web, which is nice for getting started with how do I actually get like a basic web server or something up and running. And then once you may feel more comfortable, you can set up a cluster with a tool such as kubeadm or Kubernetes admin for short. And from there, you can learn how to deploy your service and access it and make it run across a few machines if it's built that way. And I think that would probably be a good start. The top three there.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
But
Absolutely.
I would quite like to go through and share some of that as well with you and with others, perhaps next week. I think that'd be quite cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you for showing up. No, it was good to see you.
Yeah, thank you for
Maybe
having
we'll be
me.
in person before too long.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for having me virtually. You know, not the
Yeah.
same as in person, but yeah, awesome.
No curry this week.
Oh yeah, no curry. Worst thing. That's all right.
Did you get a chance to play with the keyboard?
I did start booting up. Say COVID got a bit in the way.
Yeah. There's been a few things.
Yeah, but I'm definitely going to get onto it. I've got a cool little project that I'll try and aim to get for next week.
Nice.
Yeah, awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you next
ya.
week.
Yeah,
Have a good
bye.
one.
Thank you.
Ciao.
See ya.
I'm gonna hit the off air button because it's just us and there was no audio from me because I'm just learning how to wield the thing and we can't seem to get my something stuck. And now that it's off, I'm gonna reboot the A10 by unplugging it, turning it off, turning it on again. I have no idea how it got stuck.
We still got the Zoom recording.
It'll take me a moment to come back online, I'm sure.
Hey, Hippie.
You can still hear me, but my
Can you hear
headphones
me?
haven't started routing through all the things yet. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Not sure what happened. The ATEM did lock.
Can you hear me?
That was the overview.
Yeah, I can hear you, Caleb.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear everybody.
You're still recording the Zoom session.
Oh yeah, I stopped that. Thank you. Somewhere. Well, hey, well, the Zoom session audio came through, so that'll be something. Stop share, and then the stop recording is somewhere. There's stop recording. Stop.